Hello, my name is Thomas Young, and today I will be explaining my PowerPoint presentation on the Audio-Lingual Method. The Audio-Lingual Method is a teaching method commonly used by English teachers all around the world. This method was developed by a man named Charles Fries, a teaching method which emphasizes speaking and listening. Language is taught through the use of dialogues which contain vocabulary and common structures of communication. Skills are taught in such order: listening, speaking, reading, writing. This method teaches students to listen to a dialogue, memorize the dialogue word by word, and further be able to speak and communicate the dialogue upon memory. Once listening and speaking are achieved, this method can help the students to practice to read from the dialogue and write answers to questions based on the dialogue. Next, we will move on to the history behind Audio-Lingual Method. The Audio-Lingual Method, also known as the Army Method, firstly originated in the World War II. The method was based on Leonard Bloomfield's technique, informant method, of memorization and repetition in simple foreign language patterns. The United States required linguists to set up a special training program which would emphasize on fast and easy foreign language acquisition, and principles from behavioral psychology were incorporated. This method was most commonly used from the 1950s to the 1970s. There are four main oral drills we can use in the Audio-Lingual Method. Number 1, repetition. The student repeats an utterance as soon as he/she hears it. The student will hear a key vocabulary word from the dialogue and pronounce it back to the teacher. Number 2, inflection. One word in a sentence appears in another form when repeated. The teacher will say one phrase and then will say another phrase using the same key vocabulary word. The student must pick out the key vocabulary word that has stayed the same in both sentences. Number 3, replacement. One word is replaced by another. The teacher will emphasize one phrase and one key word will change when the teacher repeats this phrase again. The student must pick out the word that has changed in the phrase. Number 4, restatement. The student rephrases an utterance. The teacher emphasizes one phrase and the student must say the phrase using different words in a different form. In an audio-lingual lesson, you would start with a warm-up exercise, such as an interactive game or video that the students would ease into the lesson with. Second, you would use a dialogue memorization drill, and we must use the key vocabulary words so students can learn certain words in the lesson from the dialogue being read by the teacher. Number 3, you would do a repetition drill using the dialogue so students have many opportunities to hear the dialogue and memorize as much of the dialogue as they can. Number 4, role play activity. Students can role play together, reading out the dialogue in pairs so they are practicing their communication with the vocabulary words. Number 5, a single slot substitution writing drill. This would include sentences from the dialogue, and you would miss out one word from each sentence and see if the students can recall and memorize from the dialogue the word that is missing. And number 6, a question and answer drill. Now this must be related to what has been taught in the lesson to see if students can remember key information about vocabulary words and the dialogue. In an audio-lingual method, you would use a range of different materials. To start off with the warm-up activity, maybe an interactive game on the computer so students can ease into the lesson, like I said in my last clip. Or we could use photos, videos or flashcards to emphasize explanations about vocabulary words. We would use sound recording devices so students can record the dialogue as we are reading it. This will help them memorize the dialogue easier as they can listen and replay when they need to. We could also use props for miming or role-playing. Now this is fun for the students and keeps them engaged whilst communicating the dialogue to each other. Some advantages for the audio-lingual method. It is interesting and lively in the classroom for students. Also, students are active during lessons. This can easily be applied to a large group of students. If you are teaching a large class, this method can easily be applied. And speaking and listening skills are better trained. It emphasizes speaking and listening, so skills in this area will be applied and will be bettered each lesson. And some disadvantages for the audio-lingual method. The teacher must be fluent and confident in this method. If the teacher is not fluent and confident, it will be hard for students to understand what is being taught in the lesson and what needs to be applied in the lesson. Next, grammar skills are not focused on. This is primarily for speaking and listening, so grammar skills are not a big focus in this method. Next, it can be tedious for students. Communicating from a dialogue, maybe they struggle to read, they struggle to communicate in social activities. It can be tedious for the student to take part in this activity. And finally, repetition can be very boring and meaningless for students. Hearing the dialogue over and over again many times in one lesson can be very boring for students. It's too much information and they will find it hard, they will find it boring, and they don't see the point in engaging with your lesson. So good materials, good teaching needs to be used in this lesson to keep students engaged. To conclude my PowerPoint presentation, the audio-lingual method is a good way for students to learn and adapt speaking and listening skills. With a good teacher, this method can be carried out very effectively. Different materials can be used during audio-lingual method lessons, and with the correct materials, students will learn a huge amount whilst having fun. And finally, this enables the students to feel confident with communication in the target language being taught, in this case English. Thank you.